This story is titled My Brother Got My Fiancée Pregnant. My dad gave him everything, so I took it all away. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's video, I need a quick favor. We've noticed the channel's been losing some momentum, and one of the best ways you can help is by subscribing. It's fast, free, and makes a huge difference in helping us keep creating awesome content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much, and now let's get into the video. I always knew my younger brother Alex was the golden child. He got away with everything: failed businesses, reckless spending, treating life like one big joke, while I worked my ass off to build something real. But no matter how hard I tried, my dad always had the same excuse: your brother's been through a lot. Family comes first. Well, family sure as hell didn't come first when Alex got my fiancée pregnant. And you know what my dad did? He rewarded him. Not just with a house, not just with money, but with the entire family business. The same business I spent years helping to build. The same business I modernized, brought clients into, and turned into something profitable. It was like a twisted joke. Like I was some extra character in my own life story. One day I'm planning my future. Marriage, a house, running the company, starting a family. The next, I walk into my dad's office to find out that my brother, the guy who's never worked for anything, has been sleeping with my fiancée for months. And the worst part? Nobody even seemed surprised. My dad didn't yell at Alex. He didn't kick Sophie out of the house. He didn't even look disappointed. Instead, he looked at me and said, "You need to be an adult about this. Alex and Sophie are starting a family now." Like I was some random bystander. Like I wasn't the guy who had been planning to marry her. Like I wasn't the guy who had been breaking his back keeping the family business afloat while Alex failed at everything. Then, as if that wasn't enough, my dad hit me with the final blow. Since they'll be raising a child, I've decided to hand the business over to Alex. That's right. I get betrayed, humiliated, and kicked to the curb, while my cheating brother gets a business, a house, and my entire future. That was the day I walked away. From the business. From my family. From everything I thought I cared about. And you know what? I don't regret it. Because 6 months later, my dad was calling me in a panic. Turns out, giving a business to an incompetent idiot isn't the smartest move. Who knew? The company was hemorrhaging money. Their biggest clients left. Lawsuits were piling up. And dear old dad? He was facing bankruptcy. Oh, and Sophie? She ran off. Left Alex to deal with the mess while she disappeared with what little money she had left. Now my dad was on the phone begging me to come back. To save the family business. To fix Alex's mistakes. To help the very people who threw me away like I was nothing. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel revenge. I didn't even feel hate. I just felt done. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's watching the people who screwed you over destroy themselves. And that's exactly what happened. If there's one thing I learned growing up, it's that my younger brother Alex could do no wrong. Didn't matter what he did, he was Dad's golden child, the one who got all the attention, all the praise, and all the second chances. Me, I was just there. See, Alex was what my parents like to call a miracle. Baby. Mom had a tough pregnancy with him. He was sick a lot as a kid, in and out of the hospital. It was scary for them, I get that. But even after he got better, they never stopped treating him like he was fragile. He got babied his whole life. If he failed a class, my parents blamed the teacher. If he wrecked Dad's truck, it was just an accident, don't be mad at him. If he blew thousands of dollars on one of his dumb get-rich-quick schemes, he's just trying to find his path. Meanwhile, if I so much as forgot to take out the trash, I get a full lecture on responsibility and how I needed to set a good example for my little brother. That was my role in the family, to be the responsible one. And I played it well. I got good grades. I stayed out of trouble. I started working young, first at a grocery store, then at Dad's electrical business when I turned 15. Not because I was particularly passionate about it back then, but because I figured if I worked hard enough, if I proved myself, maybe, just maybe, Dad would actually see me. Maybe he'd finally be proud of me. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. Because I wasn't Alex. By the time we were adults, our paths were completely different. I was the one holding down a full-time job, busting my ass every day to help grow Dad's company, learning everything I could to modernize the business. Alex? He was drifting. Dropped out of college after 2 semesters because it was too stressful. Tried starting an online business selling dropship junk. Failed. Then he got into crypto trading, lost a ton of Dad's money, and somehow still managed to act like he was the victim. But instead of holding him accountable, my parents babied him. Again. Alex just needs time to figure things out. We have to be patient with him. Not everyone is as independent as you. Independent? I wasn't independent by choice. I had to be because no one was coming to save me. I didn't have mom and dad covering my rent. I didn't have handouts every time I made a bad decision. I had to work. I had to earn everything I had. The only reason I stayed in the family business was because I wanted to build something real. I wasn't just working for Dad, I was working for my future. And for a while I thought it would all pay off. I started bringing in new clients, modernizing our systems, pushing for more commercial contracts. And it worked. The business was growing. But even then, Dad found ways to credit Alex. Your brother's charm is really great for customer relations. You should learn to be more like Alex, he's a people person. Alex wasn't doing shit. Half the time he didn't even show up to work. The other half he was screwing things up so badly I had to redo them myself. And yet, Dad still favored him. I was starting to realize that no matter how much work I put in, no matter how many hours I clocked, no matter how many clients I landed, Dad was never going to choose me over Alex. And that realization? It hurt. But it still didn't prepare me for what was coming. Because when the real betrayal happened, when my father handed over my entire future to Alex on a silver platter, that's when I finally learned the truth. In my family, hard work didn't matter. Loyalty didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was being Alex. And I would never be him. For a long time, I thought I could live with it. The favoritism. The double standards. The way Alex got everything handed to him while I had to fight for every scrap of respect. I figured whatever. Let them spoil him. As long as I kept working hard, as long as I focused on building my own future, I'd be fine. And for a while I had my own place. I had a solid career. I even had someone who I thought was my partner for life. Her name was Sophie. And for a long time, I thought she was the best thing that had ever happened to me. We met 6 years ago on a job site. She was a property manager, smart as hell, knew her way around construction better than most guys in the industry. We clicked instantly. She got me. Understood what it was like to be the forgotten sibling, the one expected to carry all the weight while the favorite child got to float through life. We moved in together after 2 years. We got engaged after 4. I thought we were building something real. A future. A family. I thought I could trust her. But then, about a year ago, things started changing. At first, it was little things. Sophie started working late more often. She spent more time at my parents' house, helping with business paperwork and wedding planning. She got weird about her phone. Changed her password. Started tilting the screen away from me when she was texting. Then there was Alex. What? Useless, entitled, lazy-ass brother who suddenly had a work ethic. He started dressing better. Wearing cologne. Actually showing up to work on time. And every time I brought up how weird that was, Sophie would defend him. He's really trying, babe. You don't give him enough credit. He's not as bad as you think. Like hell he wasn't. Something was off. I could feel it. But I ignored it. Because I trusted Sophie. Because the idea of my own fiancé betraying me, that was unthinkable. Then came the night everything fell apart. I was on a big commercial job when Sophie called me out of nowhere, crying so hard I could barely understand her. I need to see you, she sobbed. It's urgent. My heart dropped. I thought something happened to her parents. I dropped everything, told my crew I had a family emergency, and drove home as fast as I could. When I pulled up, she was sitting in her car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her together. I climbed into the passenger seat, panic racing through me. Sophie, what's wrong? She took a shaky breath, stared at the dashboard and whispered, I'm pregnant. For a moment, all I felt was relief. We had talked about kids. We wanted them. I started rambling about how we'd figure it out, how we could move the wedding up if we needed to. Then she cut me off. There's more. She swallowed hard, voice breaking. It might not be yours. Silence. The kind of silence where your whole world tilts on its axis. Where your brain refuses to process what it just heard. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I forced the words out, my voice sounding strange, foreign. Whose is it? She didn't answer. I turned to her, heart hammering, my entire body numb. Sophie. My voice was low, cold. Tell me it's not Alex. She let out a choked sob, covering her face with her hands. It wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered. And just like that, my world shattered. I don't remember getting out of the car. I don't remember driving to my parents' house. But the next thing I knew, I was in Dad's office, staring at Alex's smug, punchable face. Bro, listen, I hit him. I don't even remember throwing the punch, but suddenly, Alex was on the floor, blood dripping from his nose, screaming like the little bitch he was. Dad and 2 of our employees had to pull me off him. And then Alex, my own goddamn brother, had the audacity to play the victim. She came on to me first, he shouted, holding his nose. We were in love. In love. That's when I completely lost it. My own brother. The kid I carried on my back for years. The guy who watched me plan my future with Sophie. Who sat there at family dinners, joking and laughing like he was an F***ing my fiancé behind my back. Mom started crying. Dad tried to calm everyone down, saying, we need to handle this like adults. And then Alex, the smug little snake, dropped the final bombshell. She's having my baby. You can't just ignore that. Dad's face went pale. Guess he didn't know about that part yet. Janet, our receptionist, grabbed her purse and walked out. She quit that day. Said she couldn't work for people like them. And me? I looked at Dad, the man I had spent my whole life trying to impress, and said, he's your problem now. I'm done. Then I walked out. And I never looked back. I can't lie, hearing my father beg for my help was the most satisfying moment of my life. This was the same man who looked me in the eye and told me that Alex deserved everything more than I did. That I should train him to take over the business I built. And now he was watching that same business collapse, thanks to his golden child. But I wasn't going to let him off easy. I let him sit in silence after I told him no. Let him absorb it. I could hear his breath hitch like he was trying to find the right words. But there weren't any. He had already made his choice. Now he had to live with it. Mom got back on the phone, crying again. Please, she whispered. If we lose the business, we lose the house. We lose everything. I closed my eyes, pinched the bridge of my nose. I didn't want Mom to suffer. She was the only one who had ever tried to keep the family together. But she also stood by while they let Alex and Sophie walk all over me. While they betrayed me. She could have fought for me. She didn't. So I told her, calmly and clearly, you can come stay with me, Mom. Just you. But Dad? Alex? They're on their own. She didn't answer right away. I knew why. She wouldn't leave Dad. So I told her, that's your choice. And I hung up. The next few weeks were interesting. Word got around fast. The business was crumbling. Clients were pulling out left and right. The electrical suppliers cut them off. 4 unpaid invoices. Employees, what few were left, walked out because their paychecks bounced. And Alex? Alex disappeared. Turns out he emptied their savings account and ran. Dad tried calling him for days. Left voicemails. Begged him to come back and fix this. But we all knew the truth. Alex had never fixed anything in his life. Then Sophie, oh Sophie. I got a text from her out of nowhere. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need help. The baby's yours. I got the test results. Alex took all my money and disappeared. Please. I don't have anywhere else to go. I stared at that text for a long time. Longer than I should have. It should have meant something, right? It should have changed everything. But instead, I felt nothing. I put my phone down. Didn't reply. Not my problem. Not anymore. Dad showed up at my apartment a few nights later. No warning. No call. Just standing outside my door when I got home from work. He looked different. Smaller. Weaker. wearing an old jacket I hadn't seen since I was a kid, driving Mom's Civic because they had to sell his truck to cover debts. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in, not because I cared, but because I wanted him to see how well I was doing. My place wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Everything in it I earned. No handouts, no favoritism, just hard work. He sat down on my couch and rubbed his face. Then, after a long pause, he muttered, "I should have listened to you." For the first time in his life, my father admitted he was wrong. Then he pulled out a folder. Inside, paperwork to sign the business over to me. 100% ownership. No strings attached. "You can save it," he said. "You always knew what you were doing." I was just too proud to see it. And here's the crazy part. 6 months ago, this would have been everything I wanted. Control. Validation. The proof that I was the one who deserved it all along. But as I looked at those papers, I realized something. I didn't want it anymore. So I pushed the folder back toward him. "No," he blinked, like he misheard me. "What?" "I don't want it," I said again. "I'm done." Dad stared at me, mouth opening and closing, like he was trying to find words. But there weren't any, because he finally realized I had one. Alex was gone. Sophie was gone. The business was in ruins, and I had walked away clean. Then came the final bombshell. Dad swallowed hard. His voice was quiet. "Alex, he cleared out our accounts last week and disappeared. Left a note about finding himself, or some *T. Classic." Dad looked up at me, pleading. "He's still your brother." I shook my head. "No, he's not." He stared at me, processing that, trying to argue. But he didn't, because deep down he knew I was right. Dad started rambling about how we could rebuild the business together, how he would step back and let me run things, how we could be a real family again. I let him talk, let him hope. Then I shattered it. "You don't get it, do you?" I said, standing up. "I don't want the business. I don't want your help. I don't want anything from you." His eyes widened. He looked like I had slapped him. "But this is your mess," I cut him off. "You made your choice. Now you get to live with it." He just sat there, defeated. Then, after a long silence, he asked, "Where did I go wrong?" I almost laughed. "You didn't go wrong," I said, heading for the door. "You got exactly what you wanted." I left him sitting there in my apartment, alone, in silence, and I never looked back. Walking away from my father that night should have been the end of it. I had said my piece. They lost everything. I was free. But the thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just disappear. It sticks with you. It burrows into your bones. And the more I thought about what they did to me, what they tried to take from me, the more I realized they hadn't suffered enough. They stole my future, my fiancée, the business I built. Years of my life spent proving myself to people who never cared. So I made a decision. I wasn't done yet. If they thought rock bottom was bad, they were about to find out what true destruction looked like. Step 1. Turning the clients against them. Alex had already burned most of our commercial contracts, but there were still residential clients left, people who trusted our family name. And I knew exactly how to make them leave. I called every single client that was still with them. "Hey, this is OP. Just wanted to let you know I'm no longer with family business name. If you ever need reliable work done, I'm happy to recommend other contractors you can trust. Just wanted to give you a heads up." That was all it took. See, these weren't just clients, they were people I had built relationships with. Homeowners, small business owners, people who knew my work was solid. The moment they heard I was gone, they bailed. And just like that, my dad's last lifeline was gone. Step 2. Making sure Alex never works again. Now, I wasn't done with Alex. He wasn't just some screw-up who cost my father money. He was a fraud. He took out loans under the business name, forged signatures, and pocketed cash that wasn't his. And in the electrical business? That's illegal as hell. I started making anonymous reports to the city and state licensing boards. Sent in documentation of all the jobs he botched. Missing ground wires, bad installations, fire hazards waiting to happen. You know what happens when a contractor is reported for unsafe work? An investigation. One that could get your license revoked for life. And that's exactly what happened. Within a few months, Alex's name was blacklisted from every major contracting company in the state. He couldn't even get a permit without red flags popping up. No license, no business, no way to make money. And just to make it worse, I made sure every industry contact I had knew exactly what he did. He wasn't just a failure, he was a liability. Step 3. Making sure my father had no future. My father still had some hope. He thought maybe, just maybe, he could find a way out, a way to rebuild. So I took that from him too. Remember how he tried to guilt trip me into saving the business? I used that against him. I waited until they were at their absolute lowest. Then I made an offer. A fake one. I told him, maybe I'll consider buying the business from you. Let him believe there was a chance. Let him hope. Then, at the very last second, I pulled the plug. I watched his face crumble. You thought I'd actually save you? I said, staring him down. After everything? You deserve to lose it all. And that's when it happened. He broke. The man who had always been so damn proud, so convinced that he was in control, just sat there. Silent. Defeated. Empty. And it felt good. With my father officially ruined, the business gone, and Alex unemployable, I could have stopped there. But I wanted to make sure there was no way back for them. And there was still one last loose end, Sophie. She had been suspiciously quiet after texting me about the baby. No more desperate messages, no sudden appearances at my door. Nothing. And that made me uneasy. Then one day I got a call from my lawyer. Hey OP, you're gonna want to see this. He forwarded me an email from Sophie's lawyer. Subject: urgent legal matter, child support and custody. I stared at the screen for a long time before finally clicking. Sophie was filing for full custody of the baby. And not just that, she was demanding child support. After everything she did, she had the nerve to come after me for money? I almost laughed. Because here's the thing, Sophie had no idea what was coming. I had been waiting for this moment. I had let her believe I was just going to roll over and take it. That I'd be too ashamed or too broken to fight back. She had no clue how prepared I was. When we got to court, she showed up with her lawyer looking smug. She thought she was going to win. But the second her lawyer started talking, mine shut everything down. First, we demanded a paternity test. Sophie's face immediately dropped. She had spent months avoiding this, trying to manipulate me into just accepting the baby without proof. She tried to protest, saying she knew it was mine, that I needed to take responsibility. The judge wasn't having it. Test ordered. No arguments. Then came the financials. She had listed her income as unstable, claiming she was unemployed and needed my support. But I had already pulled her financial records. Turns out, Sophie had been getting cash payments from Alex before he disappeared. She had money hidden, assets she hadn't declared, and, oh, the best part, a second bank account under a different name. She was committing fraud. And the judge did not like that. Her lawyer tried to spin some sob story, but it was already too late. The damage was done. 2 weeks later, the test results came in. I'll never forget the look on Sophie's face when she read them. Probability of paternity, 0%. The baby wasn't mine. It was Alex's. And just like that, she lost everything. Once the paternity test cleared me, I turned around and hit her with a lawsuit for defamation, for trying to force me into paying for a child that wasn't mine, for damaging my reputation, for attempted fraud. And guess what? I won. The court ordered her to pay me damages, and she was blacklisted from receiving any financial aid from me. She had no money, no house, and no Alex to run to. With Sophie destroyed, Alex missing, and my father completely bankrupt, I had one final cherry on top. Remember how my father was losing the house? Turns out, when the bank repossessed it, they put it up for auction. And guess who bought it? Me. 4 pennies on the dollar. The same house where my father sat me down and told me I was nothing without this family, now belonged to me. And the best part? I didn't even move in. I had it demolished. The entire place leveled. My final message to them? I erased them from my life, permanently. No home, no business, no way back, just ruin. The exact thing they tried to do to me. With Sophie out of my life, Alex vanished, and my father drowning in debt, I should have felt satisfied. But there was still something left undone. Something that would ensure none of them could ever crawl back into my life. I was doing well, thriving even. My business was booming, my new place was exactly how I wanted it, and for the first time in my life I wasn't looking over my shoulder for the next betrayal. But my mother, she still called. Every few weeks. She'd check in, not asking for money, not begging me to come back, just talking like nothing had happened. Maybe she really believed things could be repaired. Then one night she called crying. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me told me to listen. "It's your father," she sobbed. "He's sick. The stress, he's not doing well." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Was I supposed to care? This was the same man who threw me away like I was nothing. The same man who watched as my brother stole my future and rewarded him for it. Now, suddenly, when his world was in shambles, he wanted me back? I asked her where they were living. "Your aunt's house," she admitted. "It's temporary." Temporary. Meaning they had nowhere else to go. The mighty empire my father built was dust. And Alex? Still gone. No one had heard from him in months. Last thing I knew, he was running some scam out of state, burning through whatever stolen money he had left. "I don't know what you want from me, Mom," I said finally. "I'm done. I told you that." "He's your father," she whispered. "He made mistakes, but he still loves you." I let that sit for a moment. Loves me? Where was that love when he was throwing me out in favor of Alex? Where was that love when he watched Sophie and Alex humiliate me? "That's not my problem," I said coldly. "You made your choice when you stayed with him." For the first time she didn't argue. She just said, "I just thought you should know," and hung up. I didn't think about them much after that. I kept pushing forward, making sure every move I made built my future, making sure there was no way they could ever take from me again. Then, about 3 months later, I got an email. Subject: urgent, family business legal matter. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity got the best of me. It was from a lawyer representing my father. He was trying to declare bankruptcy, but part of it included a clause that could impact me. Apparently, my father had put some of the business's debts under my name before I left. I don't know if he thought I'd never check or if he assumed I'd come crawling back before it ever came to this, but it didn't matter. Because I had proof. Proof that I left before those debts were incurred. Proof that they had falsified paperwork after I was gone. And the best part? The banks didn't take kindly to fraud. My lawyer shredded them in court. The bankruptcy was denied. My father was now fully responsible for the mountain of debt he and Alex had built. There was no escape. A few weeks later I got one last call. This time from an unknown number. "Hey, it's me." It took me a second to recognize the voice. "Alex?" I almost laughed. "What do you want?" "I heard about Dad. About everything." His voice was different. Not cocky. Not arrogant. Just tired. "I messed up." "Yeah, you did." He let out a long breath. "I'm in a bad spot, man. I need help." I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. "Not my problem." He was quiet for a long time. Then he finally said, "I guess I deserve that." I hung up. Blocked the number. That was the last time I ever heard from him.